One of these recently, what I did recently, I've read a book, and I've talked about this on my podcast, The Adventures of Indiana Jim, of the book, The Big Leap. In fact, I've got it here somewhere. This is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Okay. Gay Hendricks is a psychologist and a counselor and a New York Times best-selling author of Five Wishes. And the subtitle on the back, Remove the Last Obstacle to Ultimate. Where's the camera? I still look at my own face instead of the camera. The Big Leap is about taking the big leap from your zone of excellence into what's called your zone of genius. Now, before you lose track with me here, the zone of genius doesn't mean like you are a genius as in IQ level. What it means is that one particular thing that you are specifically geared for and skilled at. And the zone of excellence is this area where a lot of us get stuck. It's the place of security. I'm good here. I'm good at my job. I don't like my day job, but I'm good at it. Pays the bills. That's where I should be, is my zone of excellence. When there's another zone even beyond that. And we look at people who've made the leap into their zone of genius. When you look at someone, let's take like Cliff Ravenscraft, okay? Who's kind of a mentor of mine, a friend. And Cliff was really good at being an insurance salesman. I mean, top-notch life insurance salesman. Leader in his territory, so very good at being a life insurance salesman. And he took the big leap into podcasting. We got into podcasting full time. Had Plus memberships, he had the whole deal. Before we even had Patreon, he had the Plus membership thing going on. And then Cliff realized that while that was better than the day job was, he was still helping people realize either their financial goals or their podcasting goals or life goals. That was his zone of genius. It wasn't about the podcasting. It wasn't about the videos he made or the podcast episodes he hosted or the people he interviewed. It was about the people who responded positively to the message of his life and the people that got out of really bad situations, people who decided not to kill themselves because they listened to something that Cliff and his wife Stephanie said. That's a man who now is taking the big leap into his zone of genius. And he's now more into the, not motivational speaker thing, but the life coach, life and business coach realm. That's where Cliff's at. And I don't know yet if I see myself going that route. But I'm beginning now to see something about myself. One of the things about the big leap, the zone of genius, is the author Gay Hendricks says that the zone of genius often reveals itself in your childhood, in the way that you deal with conflict, or the way you deal with trials in your life, or the way you deal with difficult circumstances. That thing that gave you comfort, gave you hope, that coping skill that you used oftentimes will reveal what your zone of genius is. And I thought I figured it out once. But I realized I needed to go a little bit deeper because I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't convinced. And so I started, now I work at the Kroger gas station, and I sit in the little booth most of the night. And I've had opportunities to listen to a lot of audiobooks and do some reading. And I started listening again to The Big Leap because I felt like I'd gotten stuck. I felt like I'd made some progress in here, mentally speaking, at least in understanding the concepts of identity and how the thoughts that we dwell on and how that governs how we act and how we behave and how we live. And I had read Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins. Now, Cliff had gone to his Unleash the Power Within, I think is the conference. He'd gone to that and had a really good experience and learned a lot of new things. And so I was very interested. I got very interested in kind of the self-development space, the personal growth space. And while there's a lot of information in Awaken the Giant Within, so much good stuff, it didn't quite reach me the way I had expected it to. You know, I really, where my biggest hangup was, and where it's always been, is I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm 43 years old, and I still don't know what I want to do with my life. So I went to listen to The Big Leap again, just to kind of recenter my thoughts, to kind of revisit what I heard and see if something clicked for me. And I realized that I wanted to go deeper into what made me who I am. So I started writing, and all of a sudden everything just started flowing all over the page. And something took shape in my mind, a book. And this book would talk about what my life was like growing up, what the lives of my father and my 3 uncles were like, even a bit about the upbringing of my grandparents. And really decided to delve deep into family legacy and see exactly where things went wrong, I guess is one way of saying it. But really kind of go back and see how things from my past have informed my subconscious mind in here, and how that manifests itself, what effects that has had on my behavior as an adult. And I've had a grasp of it, but really wanted to explore it really deeply with now my adult perspective, having had 3 teenage kids. And there was another book that Cliff recommended to me. Because one of the things I decided, I'm a pretty good writer. And Ray Edwards, who is one of the masters of copywriting, writing copy, just recently put out a free video training series and it was kind of I don't want to say a sales pitch. It was kind of a introduction and lead up to joining his Copywriting Academy 3.0. And Ray is a very highly sought after copywriter. I keep looking at my own face like, oh, what? Like I've never seen my own face before. And we've got money in savings, and I asked my wife if I could spend the $995 to join Ray's Copywriting Academy 3.0. And she said no. And we don't really have it. And we have it, but we don't. You know what I mean? Like, we're in a good place right now with our savings. Let's not waste $1,000. Let's not spend $1,000 right now that we don't have to. Okay, that's what I mean to say. And she was right. I wasn't happy about it, but she was right. And so I posted in the Free the Dream family Facebook group for people who've attended Free the Dream, which was Cliff's conference, which my wife and I attended last year. And I posted, trying to think of ways to come up with $1,000 to enroll in Ray Edwards' Copywriting Academy 3.0. And Cliff responded with this suggestion. Why not have 10 people pay you $100 and you go through the course, and every week, once a week, you get on a Zoom call or get on a video chat or whatever and revisit and talk about the stuff that you're learning. You know, and the idea is that you're teaching about 10% of what people would learn, you know, not giving people access to the materials or your, you know, your private access or anything like that, but just regurgitating how you're processing what you're learning. And, you know, he says, I do that all the time with things I've read and yada, yada, yada. And I said, but Cliff, can I do that if I haven't established myself already as a coach? And Cliff comes back with, I don't know. Can you? I'm like, reminds me of when I talk to my kids. You can I have some milk? I don't know. Can you? And they say, may I have a glass of milk? So I said, may I? LOL. And it's one of those moments like, I don't know. Can I? And then I came back with, well, how can I? And then my next comment was, I guess it's just a limiting belief. How can I charge people money to learn something from me? I don't feel like I'm a success in anything. So why would people pay me $100, to get this information? Which is almost an exact echo of Cliff's journey when he was charging $50 whole an hour for consulting, podcasting consulting. And the idea was, I do this all the time. Why do I need to charge money for? I don't think I should charge money for it. Who am I? Who am I to charge people money? Who am I to charge people money to learn about podcasting? And eventually he came around that his time, his experience. Now again, people don't pay you for your time. They pay you for your experience, not just the time. So he realized that people will pay for his experience, his knowledge, the resources that he has, the people that he knows. When you charge somebody for a service, you're not just charging you for your time. You're not just charging them for your time. You're charging them for all of that, for everything that made you the expert that you are. And so he said, why don't you save $1,000? Motorcycles. Why don't you save the $1,000 and buy this book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz? Now, I know. Whoa, what? That sounds like, when I first heard it, sounds like L. Ron Hubbard, Dianetics, oh, Christian Science, right? That's where we're going here now. Psycho-Cybernetics means psycho being the mind, the soul, the psyche. Cybernetics actually comes from the Greek, which means basically steersman. It's the guy who steers the ship. So mind, steersman. So the book is called Mind Steersman by Maxwell Maltz. No, it's not. But this was written decades ago. And like a lot of the popular sports references, like he talks about Stan Musial. I mean, this goes back a ways. But the information is still good. And the current edition has been revised by the guy who's the current president of the Psycho-Cybernetics Association or something. Anyway, he has a few notes in there to try to modernize it a little bit. But the text is largely intact. And it's easy enough to understand. So he said, get this book. And Cliff recently did a podcast episode about this. He said, he talked about the discussion. He didn't name me. He didn't put my name in there, but he said that, that this person, I recommended this book because, and I quote, he doesn't have a marketable skill issue. He has a self-image issue. And all of a sudden, so much clicked into place. Like, I realized as I was listening to this book, I was listening to an audiobook that was excerpts from lectures that Dr. Maltz did. And then I got the Kindle ebook and I started reading. And let me show you this. So I started taking notes. Don't want to ruin my Star Wars pillow placement. Let me just open this up. I started taking notes on this book. Huh? Now that is some hefty study. I mean, and what am I doing? Just literally just writing by hand text from the book to commit it to my subconscious mind. I'm not even done with the book. And sometimes I feel like, oh gosh, I'm just rewriting the entire book, but I'm not. just the most important points so I can go back and research. And I did that with The Big Leap, and I did that with Awaken the Giant Within, which I really need to go back through. Once I figure out what my goals actually are, then I'll go back through that and really commit to them. So, been going through this book and just seeing so many things where he's been talking to me, like literally writing to me across the decades. It's eerie. It's almost frightening. But one of the things about psychocybernetics, it's one of the foundational documents in the field of personal growth, personal mindset psychology. And so many things like The Big Leap and like Awaken the Giant Within have concepts in there that go straight back to Maxwell Maltz's book. Things like, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Things like Think and Grow Rich, that book. And Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which I forget who the author of that is, but there's another book that Cliff recommends. Anyway, I am a Christian. I believe the Bible. I believe what it says. I believe that it's true. The story is true. All of it. One of the things I do is with this book that I'm writing is I look at the story of my life, look at it through the lens of the truths that I'm learning about identity and about self-image and about, dealing with who we are, figuring out where my zone of genius is, and relating that to what the Bible says, because there's so much in the scope of personal development that is supported by stuff in the Bible. It's there. And there's Christians who hear this stuff about self-improvement, and some of them just completely deny all of it because it didn't come from the Bible. And then there's those who are non-Christians who don't believe what the Bible says at all, but will listen to things like Tony Robbins and Gay Hendricks, Jack Canfield, John Maxwell, who also is a believer. But there's a lot of these personal development gurus, to use a terrible word, who are not Christians, who don't profess to be Christians, and people who are not Christians will believe, will trust, will listen to. But they go together. It's crazy. And I believe there's a lot in the field of psychology that is true, but the science of the brain that is true. And it's true because I believe that God made the world and everything in it. And he designed how it works, and he designed how this works. And so if the psychology is true, then it's true. Whether it came directly out of the Bible or not, so much of it is true. And some of it's bunk, but anyway. You have to have a good filter, and you have to have a good mind to think this stuff through. And so what I do is I relate these lessons, and I say, here's what, this was in The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Well, here's what the Bible says. Same thing. Or this was in Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Well, here's what the Bible says. Same thing. It's all the same. So you don't have to be a Christian to follow along and learn anything from me. But if you are a Christian, this is for you. I speak to my audience, and my audience is me. When you talk about people who write fiction, a lot of times, the question is, well, who are you writing for? Well, I'm writing stories for me. I'm writing the stories that no one else is writing, that I want to read. I'm writing the stories that I want to read. So I'm speaking from my personal experience to people that are very much like me. Now, you don't have to believe as I do from a religious standpoint. It's not important. I've just recently joined the Sean Cannell's 7-day YouTube challenge, which I encourage you to look that up. I'll put a link in the notes down below, the comments down below, the description. I'm still getting used to this YouTube thing. I'll put a link down in the description below. And you join us. if you're a YouTube content creator. And if not, if you've just seen this because you're looking for information about mindset or you need some encouragement, then stick with me. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and I'm going to be here doing more of this. And I'm going to do this on the podcast too. I'm going to start posting these to the podcast feed at adventuresofindianajim.net. You can go there and subscribe to the podcast if you don't always get to watch the video. And I mean, who knows where this journey is going to go? But you know, I've got 3 YouTube channels. I've got one for Apex Legends. I've got one, 40 Plus Gamer. I'm covering Apex Legends, but I play a lot of other games. Then I've got the Battlefront Survival Guide, which is all about Star Wars Battlefront series. R.I.P. Rest in peace, Battlefront 2. But also I'm going to cover other Star Wars games as well. And then I've got this channel, which is all about my personal journey. So I'm hoping that I have things to say that are useful to everyone. And it's not going to be an overtly religious channel. I mean, you know, you can just notice by the video that you've watched that, you know, only a portion of it was directly about what I believe religiously speaking, faith-wise. But hey guys, thanks for watching the long video. If you made it this far, you're my hero, and I thank you so much for watching. And I can't wait to share with you more of the stuff I'm learning in the coming days. Thanks again.